Hey, welcome to the Christian Media Marketing Show. My name is John. Thanks for hanging out with me today. This is the podcast, the video show where we try to explore all things digital, especially when it's digital engagement, which is using marketing, technology to identify and find seekers, to evangelize, disciple them, leadership formation, church formation, all of those things, both online and offline. The usage of technology and all of these things, where we look at how all of these things can just further the kingdom of God. And one of the areas that I have been leaning into a lot is going to be the subject of a three-part series that we're going to be doing here on the show, on the podcast, and also on the video show, the YouTube channel for the Christian Media Marketing Show. That subject is the subject of artificial intelligence and missions. Now, I've got a magazine article that I'm working on and writing that's going to come out here in a few months. I have a keynote that I'm doing at a conference about this subject, but I've been interested in this, really for probably about 3 or 4 years now. But the concept of AI itself has been around for quite a while. And in the last couple of months, I've read a couple of books that have really been challenging just my thoughts on AI. These books are not written from a missional or a Christian perspective. They're all about warfare and business and biology and all of these things. But I think that there's lessons that can be learned and things that we can take from them. The two books are The Coming Wave by Mustafa Suleiman, and then The Age of AI by Henry Kissinger, Eric Schmidt, and Daniel Hutton Lockyer. These two books have really been just fascinating to see people that are behind much of this technology. Mustafa, Eric Schmidt, all of them, they have been the pioneers in much of this. And so it's been really interesting just to see what their take is on the subject. What do they think we need to be doing? Obviously, Henry Kissinger, from a global and from a nation state perspective, looking at it, what is the impact of this age of AI? And I want to look at it where I'm just leaning into the concept of AI and missions. This AI wave, and that taking that idea from the book from Mustafa Suleiman of The Coming Wave, is that the wave of AI, its usage, its growth, its technology is coming along. All of these things are growing much like a wave. And so I don't think you can stop a wave. You can ride a wave or you can get destroyed by one. But they would argue that it's coming. We're beginning to see this more and more. And so let's dive into this and just really spend some time thinking through a lot of this. I just want to introduce the subjects, and then I think that you're going to need to chew on this and think about it and to wrestle with these topics. So when it comes to this whole idea of this AI wave, AI and synthetic biology are two major areas. And now you might think, well, synthetic biology, that has nothing to do with me trying to get the gospel in places where it's not. But it does, and it has an ethical part to it as well. The idea of being able to create DNA, to create different types of medicines, to even be able to create weapons, biological weapons. All of that is not science fiction. That's a reality. And it's a part of this coming wave. In fact, the technology of it itself is getting cheaper and cheaper and smaller and smaller. And so this whole idea of AI, synthetic biology, all of this are really defining technologies. Mustafa Suleiman in his book would say The Coming Wave, that's the defining technology that's coming. And in it, he says that technology itself follows a very single, seemingly immutable law. And that this single immutable law is this, that it gets cheaper, easier to use, and ultimately it proliferates. We've seen that. We've seen that with the printing press. In the span of just a few tens of years, it went from one printing press to hundreds of them. The car, electricity, cell phones, all of this continues this pattern. It gets cheaper, it gets easier to use, and it ultimately it proliferates. Well, if AI and all of these other things are a part of that same immutable law, well, things will get smarter, cheaper, easier to use, and you will begin to see it, this coming wave, in all sorts of things. Now, the rise of AI and digital missions itself brings with it some really neat opportunities, but not without challenges. And that's really what this three-part series. We're going to look about just this coming wave. We're going to look at some applications, the ethical implications, some of the challenges, and some things we've got to be concerned about. We need to be wrestling with right now. But there's, to me, just some really fascinating things that I can see just right now where AI is and will continue to make an amazing impact. Ideas of translation, the ability now to be able to put your phone on something and see it translated, the ability to hear a language and have it being translated in your glasses, the ability to all of a sudden not have to have a phone. Maybe it's a contact lens that you wear that will be able to see that other language and be able to translate it or to give you a heads up display. The use of AI in just real time to be able to go through all of this, to bring to mind so much just of these resources, it's really fascinating. But specifically in translation, to me, it is a very powerful tool. There are still so many people groups that do not have the Bible in their own language. And so, how do we help these people? So, let's just think through when it comes to all of this stuff, there's the translation part to it. And then there's then going to be even chatbots themselves. And so using agents and chatbots, all of a sudden, the ability to educate, to answer questions, the ability to give feedback, the ability to really process things in other languages and even just in our own language that you normally operate in, this is where I think AI is going to make a big impact. And all of this then will make an impact when it comes to evangelism. If we get the word of God in the heart languages of people, if we can get these languages that have not yet been translated and get the Bible in there, if we are able to work with people in other languages and be able to understand them and they understand us and be able to do this in real time, that's really fascinating. And AI is going to be a part of that. I was on a call with a team in one of the Stan countries here just a few weeks ago. And even then, it was in real time taking what I was saying and translating it in the Google Meet video call that we were doing. And Google was able to take that and translate it into the language that they spoke, and vice versa. As they were speaking in their language, I was able then to see that in English. That's just the beginning, because what we're seeing with AI is that it's going to get stronger and smarter and faster and better. Now, I don't think it's unending. I think it's going to continue to grow, though. In fact, some of the estimates are, and as I read even in the books, they're thinking, and maybe just in the whole idea of what is really considered general intelligence in maybe just 3 years' time. We don't know, but the growth of it is really like a hockey stick. In fact, one of the first books that I read was a book called AI 2041 by Kai Fu. And the whole concept of the title was that by 2041, this is how AI is going to be integrated into our life. And yet, many of those things that he talks about are already here in 2025. So, translation work, chatbot, evangelism, discipleship, all of this, to me, there's a lot of things that AI, machine learning, and such are going to be able to help us. But when it comes to that, power, what are the ethical considerations of it? Is AI good? Is it bad? Depending on who you talk to, they're going to have different answers. Yes, you have some that are the Luddites that just know technology. You have others that just love this. And this is the right now, the big shiny object. And so there's groups that love talking about it and are all into it. And I understand that it's exciting, but I think we need to go into this in a Christian idea with our eyes wide open. AI's power is one of general purpose. But the thing is that it's hyper evolving. So it continues to get better. It's continuing to change. And yes, you have specific use cases, but now it's beginning to grow out into other areas, and just its general purpose is growing. In fact, just with search itself is decreasing as people are using tools like OpenAI and others, Gemini, to give the answers that they're searching for right away instead of going to like Google search or Bing or something else. So AI is very much general purpose, but it is growing at a very fast rate. And because of this, it poses risk. It really does. And so it enables the work that we're doing, but I think it also prevents or presents itself as a risk of surveillance and also just of misuse. We have to think about how people are using this for disinformation, for deep fakes, for all sorts of cyber attacks that are being done that are amazingly accurate anymore. But even things like who owns all of this data? And do we trust these few companies now that have all of this stuff? And these are the questions that we need to be thinking through. I don't think always that we need to go, okay, well, we're going to make a Christian version of something. That's not always necessarily the answer to things, but the idea of constraints and the idea of understanding biases does need to be something that we are thinking through. And so as we grow with this, as the AI itself is enabling so many cool things in missions, I think we need to go into it with our eyes wide open. And I'll be sharing more about this in the next couple of episodes. So, how missions itself, how you and I can prepare for this coming wave, for this AI shift, is to understand that AI itself is a tool. It is a tool just like the computer, just like pencil and paper, all of these things. And so we need to learn how to ethically harness this tool. And it's going to provide for personalized discipleship through AI powered and curated content. That is coming. And so we need to be thinking through the ethical guidelines. We need to be thinking through just how do we want to use AI? Where do we want to use it? Where do we not want to use it? All of this is part of the ethical guidance that I think we need to be thinking through. And if we don't begin to think through it now, we're going to get caught off guard. The tool itself is going to get better and better and more powerful and more used and prevalent in all aspects of our lives. We need to be thinking about this right now. And so next week, Lord willing, we're going to talk a little bit together. And I hope that you're going to be thinking through all of these things. But just when it comes to AI, how it's changing the way we understand faith itself from a theological perspective. How can AI make an impact on that? All right. And so be thinking through ways that you see AI playing itself out, ways that you can see AI being used in your ministry, in the work that you do, ways that you're already using it, and maybe dream a little bit about what you think is going to be coming. And then wrestle with in what ways can we use these tools in a way that furthers the kingdom, furthers the renewal of all things, honors Jesus as King, is ethically and scripturally in alignment with what our King would want us to use these tools. We cannot bury our head in the sand. We cannot run away from it. It's coming, and it's going to impact every part of ministry. All right. So be thinking through those. I'd love to hear your comments or your thoughts. Make sure that if you haven't already, subscribe to the show, share it with others. I really would appreciate that. As always, we exist at Kavanaugh Media to try to serve the kingdom. And so if we can help you in any way, I'd love to hear what that is. But no matter what we are already doing for you is praying that God would bless you and bless your works to make his son famous and known. Until next time, take care and keep pressing forward. Bye for now.